Hey, if you look up Jem's Art Studio, they have this beautiful Ukrainian sunflower. It's absolutely worth checking out. All the profits are going to go to help Ukrainian charity, so please check it out. It'll be great. All the links will be below in the description and probably here in the picture. But yeah, go help them out. Ukrainians are going through hell right now.
This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by Jem's Art Studio. Jem's Art Studio is an online store that allows access to prints that you can use for most anything, obviously as just a picture, or as a wallpaper, or as a bookmark, or anything you can think of. You can find Jem's Art Studio at etsy.com/shop/Jem's Art Studio. This video is also brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hey, I kind of really want to thank you guys for helping support me. Like, the reaction content's not something I ever thought I'd do on this channel, but I am having fun doing it, and it's honestly easy content that actually gives me time. I can shoot one of these and get a couple out to you every week and have time to also construct like much bigger videos. And I can actually make less bigger videos now because I can get a lot of the ideas I want to say out in reaction content kind of based on just videos I choose to watch, which are typically going to be very cringe. And I hope me suffering through the cringe videos makes them entertaining for you. And I know lots of people have criticized my opinions on some of the stuff I talk about. And all I say is feed me your hate. I love your hate. But no, seriously. One of the things, I've been on YouTube longer than I care to admit. Over 8 years now. Slow growth. It's weird. You blow up. And then you hit like a point where you stop, and then you blow up again, then you hit a point where you stop, and then you blow up again, and you hit a point where you stop. I've had, I want to say 2 blow-ups. I've topped out now around 27,000. And I do kind of feel like if I blow up again, this might become an actual job, but it hasn't happened yet. And don't know if it will happen. It'd be nice, but not there yet. But there was a point, because I've been on this platform for a while, when I saw certain content rising and saw that there was probably an avenue I could take. And it's an avenue I decide I really didn't want to take, because one of the routes I saw was the Brie Larson thing. Every fucking movie content creator I felt like for a while was just spitting out ad nauseum Brie Larson videos. I talked about a little bit in my Comicsgate video, but it's some of the dumbest stuff too, because it was blown up, and I was like, oh, what's the story here? And I look into it, and it's like nothing. It's like, what are we even talking about, people? Seriously, it's not a big deal. It's essentially something she said. I don't remember exactly what it was. Essentially, she was only going to talk to people of color interviewers or something like that. It was something kind of silly, but it's like her heart's in the right place, and everybody blew up at it, and yeah, so I look into the story, and I didn't want to do that, and there's lots of stuff like that where I felt like there was an easy avenue where I could just be a phony and pretend I'm outraged about something and definitely get a whole bunch of money. And what I've essentially decided was no. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this honestly. When I give you my reactions, my thoughts, my ideas, that's me. These are all my honest opinions. I'm not going to lie. I might be wrong. I'm certain there's plenty of times I'm wrong. And I might get things wrong. Most famously, the thing that I got wrong in the movie comparisons, I regret doing this. When I do Batman Begins versus Spider-Man, I gave the villain point to Ra's al Ghul. I regret that. William Dafoe really owns that. And I love Liam Neeson in Batman Begins, but that was all about Willem Dafoe. But yeah, I will get things wrong. But I'm always going to be honest with you guys. This is me as much as possible, as much as I'm comfortable doing. And I decide I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to fake outrage over something dumb just to get views. I'm just going to be myself, talk about movies, or in the case reaction videos, watch cringe videos and give you my reactions to them. And I've been doing reactions to political videos, and if you're wondering, I hate Democrats and Republicans. I'm equal opportunity hating on that angle. I do think Republicans are off the deep end for what it's worth, but yeah. I just want to say, I'm just going to be honest. For the video I'm going to watch today, we're going to return to a channel I've talked about before, Daily Wire. There's a review of the Batman on there. I know nothing about it. I remember there was a really cringe clip of a guy recently where essentially a huge part of his review was about how Gordon and Catwoman are black in the movie, which...
And this is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess. So, warning for spoilers. It's not a major one, but there were only a couple good people in this movie. You had Bruce Wayne, Batman, and you had Alfred. Those are the only two good white people. The rest of the three other major players that I would consider like overall like moral good people were, you had Jim Gordon, who's black in this. You had Catwoman, who's not white in this. And then you had the mayor, who's a black woman. Again, very much on the nose for current day Hollywood. Did not like that. Took a little bit off the score for me, to be honest.
We'll see if we get some of that in this one. I doubt it. Or at least if we do, it's going to be coded. But yeah, we'll go ahead and check out this review. This is actually by the guy who founded the Daily Wire, Mr. Ben Shapiro, who, to my understanding, he was a failed screenwriter, which, it's not something I really care to criticize him on too much, because, failure happens, but it also is because he's not very smart. But he did a review of the Batman. And we're going to watch his thoughts on the Batman. And you might be like, well, dude, why don't you just tell us your thoughts on the Batman? To which my response is, I do. On the podcast, which came out yesterday. Go to the podcast channel. Check it out. But now we're going to get my reaction to Ben Shapiro's review of the Batman. Which I'm certain this is going to be great art. This will be wonderful, I am certain. Every inch of me knows.
Alrighty, folks. So last night I went and I saw The Batman. My review of that is coming up in just one moment. This video is sponsored by Ring.
Wait, are we going to a commercial or?
So last night I went and saw The Batman. Went and saw it with my wife. It is 1 million hours long. And it's one of those movies where...
It is overlong. Not that rough. I thought Zack Snyder's Justice League drug a lot more. Cut a half hour off. We have a really good movie that if you cut a half hour off would be a fantastic movie. Just excellent.
I started off and I was like, okay. And then I got a little further in. I was like, all right. And then I got to the end. I was like, meh. And then the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And so you're about to hear a lot of hot takes on the Batman because I hate this movie. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to tell you right up front, spoilers. Spoilers aplenty here. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you want to see the film and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm warning you.
I'm trying to think what the big spoilers would be. I'm not sure.
You've been warned. All right, this is Detective Batman. So if the original Michael Keaton Batman was sort of crime-fighting Batman, and the Christopher Nolan Batman was city-saving Batman, this Batman...
City-saving Batman? Okay. Really putting deep thought into this. I mean, holy shit. This is Watch Mojo level movie critique analysis going on here. Deep, man.
Batman is supposed to be Detective Batman. And this has a long history in the Batman comics. Some of the best Batman comics, particularly my favorite, The Long Halloween, is rooted in the idea of Batman not just as Caped Crusader, but as a great detective. Smarter than everybody else, capable of picking up on clues, investigating and tracking down crimes. I'm going to start with what's right with the film because it's going to be real short. So what's right with the film is that it looks great.
It's going to be real short? There's plenty of good stuff in this movie. What the fuck movie did you watch?
A film noirish take on Gotham City. It almost feels kind of like retro Taxi Driver Gotham City. So everything is very dirty. It's all taking place at night. It's shot in kind of grayscale at times. It's got a lot of warm oranges and reds, but against a very dark black. So it's a lot of muttered dialogue. It feels as though it's taking place in the same city as Joker is taking place. So if you saw Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker, which looks like 1970s New York, it feels almost like the other half of that, but it seems more like the...
No, it doesn't. Like, at all. Like, Todd Phillips' Joker felt honestly more like real, which I'm not saying that makes this movie like it. I prefer the look actually of the Batman because this feels like a different world. It's tough to describe. You have to see it. It's like a noir movie pretty much. It's a detective noir movie. It's done very artistically. Joker is fine, but it's kind of a wannabe art film where this actually feels like an art film.
Take on what future New York would look like if you were living in New York in 1970. That's sort of a good way of putting it. The music to the film is okay. I think that Michael Giacchino tends to be a little bit derivative in how he does the scores to the films. This one,
I think he's great. I loved his, I think it was Star Trek 2009 he did the score for. He did a fucking great job. He's done a great job on the new Spider-Man movies that he's done. He's great. I actually don't remember much of the score for the Batman. So, I mean, that tells me it wasn't bad.
He basically takes the music that Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard wrote for Batman Begins in the Nolan trilogy, which the theme goes da-da. And here he just inverts it. So instead of da-da, it's da-da. Okay, fine. So it's a little bit derivative. But the score is totally fine. The acting is okay, as we'll find out in a second. They give Robert Pattinson nothing to do as Batman. Nothing to do as Batman. I didn't think that Zoe Kravitz had...
They gave Robert Pattinson nothing to do as Bruce Wayne. They gave him a lot to do as Batman, actually.
Any sort of chemistry with Robert Pattinson. So she's fine. She's kind of flirty. Meh. I didn't see anything particularly wrong with her performance. I just didn't see a lot right with her performance. You have John Turturro showing up as Carmine Falcone, and he is John Turturro, so he's okay.
Oh, no, he's not. It didn't blow me away, but he is not, like, he's acting like John Turturro is just, like, is one of these actors with only one mode, and he's not. He's actually a really talented actor with a lot of modes. Like lots of times he plays, like, the goofy character, but, like, the character he plays in, like, the Transformers movie, the character he plays in Big Lebowski are two very different characters. They're both the goofy characters, but they're drastically different. And this is not a goofy character at all. This is actually a very serious, straight-played character. He does a good job. I didn't think he blew me away, but he's very good.
Somewhat menacing. The best performance in the film is Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. You literally cannot spot Colin Farrell in this makeup. There is no way that you can see Colin Farrell here. The whole movie, I'm staring at him going, that's not Colin. It is Colin Farrell. It's the best performance in the movie. Paul Dano gives a good performance in the film, although...
No, Paul Dano is the best performance in the movie. Let's get that out of the way. He is terrifying as the Riddler. Colin Farrell's great and everything. He's great here. But yeah, Paul Dano fucking owned this movie.
He's sort of playing the Joker a little bit, although he's playing it more wide-eyed, as Paul Dano is apt to do. The main character of the film is the Riddler. And herein lies the main problem with the film. The biggest problem with the film is that the film hates Batman. Like, the actual Batman character hates the Batman character. And this drives me up an absolute wall. The biggest problem with the film is not the wokeness. Yes,
you've got to go into this, okay? You can't just say it hates the Batman character and leave it at that. And he already said the wokeness, so already I'm starting to go, ugh. I'm not gonna lie, this review is going nowhere. I was kind of hoping there'd be a bit more cringe to this. This is, I mean, it's not like super cringe. It's just not good movie reviewing. And just, he's making me dumber watching it.
There's some woke touches. You have Catwoman, who is a woman of color, who is, of course, good. And you have the black female mayor, who is good. And you have the black Jim Gordon, who...
Oh, God. Wow, I paused it right before this, huh? Wow. Wow, we're going this route? Oh, the black characters are good? Jesus Christ, dude. Black Jim Gordon. Dude, if you don't think Jeffrey Wright was born to play Jim Gordon at some point, then you're stupid. Jeffrey Wright's, like, brilliant choice for Jim Gordon. Zoe Kravitz was good. She's plays with a lot of gray areas, so I don't know where he's talking about Catwoman. Like, yeah, Catwoman's not a villain in this, like, at all, but she's definitely flirting with gray areas that Batman is very much not, and he's trying to guide her on the right path. So this idea that he's trying to present, like, oh, the black characters are good. No, just stop it with the fucking racism, okay? Stop being racist.
Who is good. Every white character is apparently bad, like all of them. Fine, whatever.
Like Batman? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my God. Alfred was bad? Oh, stupid.
I don't really care about that. That's fine. You have Catwoman say stuff about white privileged elites, and she makes a suggestion that Bruce Wayne as a child, when his parents were killed, he doesn't really have a right to be super upset about that because, of course, he was very, very rich. That doesn't, kind of rings hollow. You know,
how does that ring hollow? It's brought up that, like, he wasn't really, like, a lot of ways he wasn't really an orphan because he was rich and he had this mansion. He got to go home to a mansion, whereas actual orphans go into a foster home and they have literally nothing. He still has a lot. He doesn't have his parents. It's a tragedy, but he still has a lot. Most kids, when they lose their parents, have nothing. And that's what they bring up. They bring up the difference there. And it doesn't come up hollow. It's actually a good point that I'd forgotten about. But yeah, I like that point they bring up.
Now, a lot of these lines seem like throwaways for film lefty Twitter. But the main theme is not a throwaway. The main theme is what matters here. The film despises Batman. So every Batman iteration...
Okay, you keep on saying it despises Batman. Please tell us more besides it despises Batman because he's woke. I don't even understand how it despises... It doesn't despise Batman. I'm really confused. Where are you going with
has
this?
To explain why a man who is a billionaire would dress up like a bat and go around beating up criminals. It's not answered. And the director doesn't know. And the writer doesn't know. And this is the problem. So in the Nolan films...
he does it because he's crazy. It's the same explanation in the Nolan films, the same explanation in the Burton movies. He's kind of fucking crazy. He's not that far off from the criminals he's hunting. What more explanation do you want? Do you want them to draw it out, the psychological map for you, Ben? It's the same explanation they've been doing.
To take the contrast, the question as to why Batman does this is because if Batman does not actually intimidate the criminal underworld because the city is so corrupt, no one else will do it, and money isn't going to solve the problem. And so he needs to create a theatrical kind of fear in order to dissuade the criminal underworld from participating. And then, as it turns out, he also has to save the city itself and demonstrate his faith in the city by becoming a symbol. Here, you don't really know why Batman is doing what he's doing. It's never...
Okay, so they say that in the Nolan stuff, but what... Like, it's obviously him, like, wanting to do something and then figuring out the means to get there. Yeah, it's theatrical. But he's also fucking crazy. And here, he's fucking crazy. This movie feels like it's kind of like a comic book story where it just kind of drops you. Like, if you pick up, like, a random issue, this is what it's going to be like. Like, if you pick up a random issue of a story arc, like, it's just dropping you in. Here's Batman. He's fighting crime, and he's on this case. It just drops you in, and you get, like, a few issues of the story. It feels like that. And you get a whole story arc. There's some, there's some stuff from before you didn't see. There's some seeds left for later that we obviously don't see because it's for later. That's how the movie feels like, and it's clear that's what they're going for. I mean, do you need a whole roadmap for Batman? We've already, do you want them to do the Nolan thing again? Because we've already had the Nolan movies. They shouldn't do them again. And the main reason why Batman's doing the Batman thing is because he's fucking crazy. I think it's fairly fucking clear that he's crazy and he's not that far away from the criminals he's hunting. Because why would you do this to yourself? Because he's kind of crazy.
Never explain. He's very wealthy. He doesn't apparently do anything with his wealth. He doesn't try to give charity. He doesn't this is actually made a plot point.
Okay, yeah, but they actually explain that in this movie. If you fucking watched it, they explain that, he doesn't care about any of that. He's obsessed with the Batman.
He's a bad man because he's white. He's a bad white man.
Where do they say he's bad? Where does the movie pass a judgment on him? Other than that, he's rich, and he is rich. Are we getting Ben? Are you okay, man? Are you feeling a bit triggered by the fact that this movie is saying well-off white guys may not be perfect? Feeling a bit triggered, buddy?
Man who doesn't actually give charity. He's not involved, and he's not playing that as a role. Again, this is part of the problem: is that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. So if you I keep using the Nolan comparison because it is the gold standard for all superhero movies, not just Batman movies. So when you look at Nolan's Batman, Bruce Wayne is the...
Okay. I feel like a gold standard for Batman would actually be Batman the Animated Series. That's a gold standard for Batman. Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I feel like they're not aging great. I actually prefer the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, save the third one. Those first two Raimi movies, I would actually put those above the Nolan movies. Sue me, those first two Spider-Man movies, better than the Nolan movies.
The character that Batman is playing. Okay, Bruce Wayne is not real. Batman is real. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. And so he has to play a fop. In Batman Begins, he's squiring around ladies in his Lamborghini, and he's buying hotels, and he's doing all of this just to cover up for the fact that he is Batman. So you get very separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. You get the same thing actually with Michael Keaton. Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. Here, Batman and Bruce Wayne are the exact same character. They're
Well, you never really see, outside maybe a brief scene, you never really see Bruce Wayne as Bruce Wayne. And do you want them to just do the same thing over again? Is that what you're looking for? You want them to just repeat what they've already done in other movies, Ben? Is that all you want? Because we have the Michael Keaton movies. We have the Christian Bale movies. I'm fine if they don't want to do that again, because they've already done that.
Points where Bruce Wayne is walking around. He's got the same dour expression, same glazed look, same kind of emo thing going on as Batman does the entire movie. And so there's no...
Because they're essentially the same person. Bruce Wayne is the cover, which was the point of the other ones. Bruce Wayne's the cover. Batman's the real character. In this, I don't know if he even has a cover for Bruce Wayne. He's just kind of Batman. And I already explained, he's kind of crazy. That's the idea. Is that too deep?
No dichotomy. Alrighty, folks. Well, I may not have loved the Batman, but here's the thing. Real Batman knows how to protect himself and protect his family, and you should too, because you need Ring Along.
Commercial. Yay. I don't care. Okay, the plot, sure.
So, here is the actual plot of the film. Batman has only been Batman for a couple of years, so he's not really good at Batmaning yet. And he is tracking down criminals, and he gets drawn into a plot by the Riddler. The Riddler is giving clues so that Batman can track down all the way through the system of Gotham, this citywide corruption that apparently is going to bring down the entire superstructure of faith in the city. Meanwhile, you have Catwoman, who's Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe Kravitz is similarly engaged in an attempt to commit a robbery against one of these underworld figures, but she's drawn into Batman's orbit by a murder that both of them are investigating at the same time, the murder of her roommate, maybe something more going on there. The Riddler is the main villain of the movie. You see the Penguin a fair bit. Carmine Falcone is one of the big characters in the movie. You get a little bit of Alfred. Of course, you get Jim Gordon, whose main job in this film is apparently just to say Jesus over and over again.
Christ, it's Coulson.
Whenever something bad happens, he just goes, Jesus. And that...
Jesus Christ, way to downplay Jeffrey Wright. He did a good job.
happens like 6 times. Like Jim Gordon does nothing except for basically stop Batman from getting arrested a lot. That's pretty much all he does. He's a bad detective. He doesn't do anything. The plot is that all these...
Wow. Shots fired at Gordon. Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, he works with Batman on the crimes because that's kind of Gordon's thing.
People get killed. Batman uncovers it. He realizes that his dad was corrupt also, or that his dad engaged in corruption with Carmine Falcone. Finally, we get to the end. Paul Dano does it's such a ripoff of Seven. He gives himself up. He doesn't get captured by Batman. Batman does not prevent a single one.
Because Seven owns the copyright on villains giving themselves up. Seven's the only one. Seven did that, so no other movie can ever do that. And I'm sure no movie ever did that before Seven. Seven originated that. It's owned by Seven. Jesus Christ, dude. Do some fucking research. Ugh.
One of these deaths. Batman, in fact, is complicit in one of the deaths by accident. And he doesn't actually capture the Riddler because he's clever. The Riddler gives himself up by sitting at a...
Yeah, no, like, he's complaining because this movie isn't enough like needs to be more like the Nolan and Burton movies, but it also shouldn't be like Seven, even though... Yeah, he just gives himself up. Like, there's plenty of movies where the character gives themselves up. Oh, fuck.
Diner and getting arrested. Then he unleashes a bombing of Gotham that essentially causes the flooding of the city. And Batman goes to the Madison Square Garden, where a mayoral event is now being held for the brand new mayor, who is an uplifting black female who has no other story or backstory, so she's really uninteresting. It starts to...
So you want a full backstory behind the character? It's not a major character. Do we need a backstory for every single fucking character in the movie, Ben? I mean...
Flood. And up on top, in the wings, are a bunch of Paul Dano's followers, are a bunch of the Riddler's followers who are all dressed like the Riddler, and they are shooting down into the crowd to try and kill members of the elite in Gotham City. And so Batman goes up there and he's beating people up. There comes a point where he's beating this guy, and he's really, like, maybe beating him almost to death. And he stops, and they take off that guy's mask, and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I am vengeance." Okay, now this is the theme throughout the film. Ooh, the theme. Okay, so in order to explain why this is a problem, you have to now understand the character of the Riddler. So it says right at the beginning of the movie, "Who is Batman? I'm vengeance," right? He's just on the streets and he's beating people up.
I'm vengeance.
And then people keep calling him Mr. Vengeance for no apparent reason. Like, we don't know why they're calling him that, because he never actually publicly says he's vengeance. It's in his creepy diary, which again is supposed to be a mirror image of the fact that the Riddler also keeps a Zodiac Killer style diary. So they're supposed to be two halves of the same whole. Batman is beating up this follower of the Riddler's. He takes off his mask, and the guy says, "I'm vengeance." And suddenly Batman sees. Suddenly Batman realizes he can't be vengeance. That's not what he's meant to do. He's betrayed his mission.
Yes. Why is this a negative? He has an arc. I'm confused.
And so he then descends on an electrified cable because he's trying to stop people from being electrocuted by this flying electrical wire. And he cuts off the cable. He's holding on to it. He falls down into the water. A rebaptism. He gets up, and then he proceeds to lead a bunch of people who are not really trapped, but kind of trapped, I suppose. And he leads them to, I guess, a safer place by carrying a torch. And then he goes up to the top of Madison Square Garden, and he is helping people be airlifted and medevaced out. And this is how he has learned fulfillment. So,
I mean, what exactly was your critique there? He had an arc?
What is this movie about? This movie is about how fighting criminality does not actually help innocent people. He says this at the very beginning. He says, "I'm not sure I'm doing any good. By fighting the criminals, crime is still up." It turns out that Batman has to stop being Batman. Batman has been missing it the whole time. What Batman really has to be is Superman. Batman needs to go into areas like Madison Square Garden and not fight the criminals. He needs to go and lead people with a torch to a slightly safer area. He needs to help...
What? What the fuck movie did you watch? This is just, I mean, this isn't like outrageously, like, for Daily Wire, this is not the worst, but this is just bad critique. This is, I'm going to tell you the movie I want to critique and not the movie I saw. This movie had an arc, and that pisses me off. I mean, what critique is that? And it wasn't like he's not going to beat up criminals. It was like him realizing he's got to channel it. Because, yeah, he can't do this for vengeance. That's what he realizes. He can't do this for vengeance. He has to channel it to be more productive than that. It's not about beating up the criminals. It's about protecting the innocent. That's his arc. It's not even tough to understand, dude.
Medevac people on the top of he needs to build Habitat for Humanity. He needs to join Jimmy Carter.
I mean, it's not even like he needs to stop being Batman, because he never even says he's going to stop being Batman. He's in the Batman suit at the end of this.
Build houses for homeless people. That's what Batman needs to be doing. This really is a sort of attack on the idea that fighting crime helps innocent people. It's an almost defund the police attitude toward what crime is. And it's an attack on the basic idea that individuals are capable of doing justice by finding bad guys and fighting them. Instead, apparently, individuals are only capable of doing nice things by helping little old ladies cross the street.
Now, is this... So I already said at the beginning of this, he's a failed screenwriter. Is this why his screenplays never took off? Because he's contorting this movie to fit this weird view he's going for. Essentially, he's contorting it to fit this vision so that he can attack it. This movie really doesn't have a problem with Batman beating up criminals. It has an issue with Batman killing criminals, which it's brought up a few times throughout the movie. He incidentally kills people probably in this movie, but he does go out of his way not to do that. He tries not to, but he's also still learning, so he's not great at it. But yeah, it's him. Like, you were complaining that, like, in the Nolan movies, he'd need to become a symbol. This was kind of his arc in this one, him learning to become a symbol. And, like, essentially you're attacking it for not doing that, but when it does that, you attack it for doing that. I mean, what the fuck, man?
It's this sort of mentality that has led to New York turning into Gotham City in the last couple of years, by the way. That's a fundamental betrayal of what Batman is. What makes Batman different from the Riddler and than any of these other criminals is these criminals target innocent people and Batman targets criminals. That's the basis of the character. The entire basis of the character is the cops are bad at targeting criminals because they're corrupt. Batman is good at targeting criminals because he's smart and because he's rich and because he's incorruptible. That's the entire basis of Batman. And they take all that and they flip it on its head because they don't like Batman.
How do they flip that on his head? The cops are corrupt here, except for Gordon, pretty much. And Batman helps them get the criminals. Like, he essentially described this movie and said that it flips it on its head, but it's this movie. Did you watch this? Did you?
And this is why I have real problems with the movie. I kind of hate the movie. Like, the more I think about it, the more I get angry at it. Because they take the fundamental idea of what Batman is supposed to be, the protector of the innocent who targets the criminal, and they say that if he targets the criminal, this makes him no different than criminals. Because Paul Dano, who's the Riddler, is also targeting criminals. All the way...
No. What all they're saying is that he needs to focus less on getting the criminals and more on just protecting people. That's all they're saying. It's not that deep. It's not even that big of a change. It's just... Yeah, a lot of what you're seeing in this movie is that he just has this rage in him. And he needs to learn more on that. There's a point where he almost beats a guy to death. He fucks him up bad. And then it's the guy he's talking about. He says, I am vengeance. He fucks that guy up right before then. And that's kind of his revelation moment, because he beats the shit out of him and he's like, oh shit, what am I doing?
Way up until the very end, when they have to just sort of add on this attack on Madison Square Garden and New York Broad Writ for no reason. He has no motivation for blowing up a bunch of trucks and flooding downtown. Like, no.
Riddler he talks about how the whole city is corrupt. Dude, did you watch it? Listen, man, I have issues with that because they don't set it up well. Like, they kind of set up that something big's going to happen, and within a couple moments it's there. Like, we have no time to, like, really let it sink in. So I have issues with it. But, like, the big event happening, yeah. It makes sense for the Riddler to do that, dude. 100%.
None. He doesn't explain why he does it. He doesn't explain what...
Corruption! Oh my god. Did you watch the movie? How are you so bad at this?
The purpose of it is, all the way along, he's been saying, I'm exposing the true face of Gotham. Okay, that's a rationale. But what does that have to do with blowing up the city? They add that on just...
Well, that's the thing. So he's exposing the true face of Gotham. But then Batman beats him, essentially, by being better than that. By not being this crazy guy who's out there beating up people, but by helping people. He shows that he, and in return Gotham, can be better than that. That's the goddamn movie.
Just so that they can create a false distinction between Batman and the Riddler so that Batman can change his mission. So now Batman's mission is not beating up bad guys and stopping bad guys. Now Batman's mission is to be a firefighter. He's no longer a detective or a police officer.
He's just forcing this idea that he's Batman at the end of this movie. He's still Batman. He's still gonna hunt down criminals. At what point did you see him give that up? What movie did you watch? You're just changing the story to fit this fucking narrative you want to bitch at for this movie supposedly having. This is weak ass shit, man.
Firefighter. That's a betrayal, and it's a real problem. And that's my biggest issue with the film.
Fucking betrayal. Get over yourself, man. What? You're the only one that truly understands Batman. This movie doesn't get Batman. This movie gets Batman a hell of a lot better than you do, moron.
It just feels like such a sellout. It feels like such a sellout of what Batman is supposed to be. Again, it's got a little bit of woke politics, but that's really not the problem. The problem is...
I think you don't like the woke politics and you're contorting this to fit whatever you want. I don't know, but it's really sounding a lot like that. And this says spoilers. What? The big attack at the end is your big spoiler? What? Whatever, man.
The broader woke orientation of the film. If the Nolan Batman was about the idea that you help innocent people by fighting criminality and provide an inspiration to people to fight criminality, if that's the idea of Batman, which it is, that's completely thrown on its head here. Matt Reeves, who's...
That's literally what they do in this movie. Holy shit, man.
credited as both a director and a writer on the film. He does not like Batman, and I can't get over this. How do you get that? You keep on saying he doesn't like Batman. What the fuck were you watching? $150 million to a dude to make a movie about Batman when he clearly does not like Batman, when he thinks that Batman is bad, and that Batman has to be shown the error of his ways and learn to be...
What? Where do you get... Batman is flawed. He never comes off as bad. He's just flawed. He's not bad really at all in this movie. He just very, very flawed. But, I mean, you want a main character that's flawed so he can have an arc. Because you want your major characters to have arcs in movies. It's a thing that screenwriters should know about.
A nicer human being. By the way, at the very end of the movie, Catwoman, who at no point has actually demonstrated any sort of moral bona fides. Like, I'm not sure she does a moral thing in the entire movie. At the very end, she says to him, why don't
Oh, wait, I thought you said because of woke politics she was perfect. Dude, you're not even consistent in your goddamn review. No wonder your screenplay
you run away with me, and we'll go rob some hedge fund CEOs. And he doesn't say back to her, you know, that's bad to rob hedge fund CEOs. Instead, he's like, he thinks about it.
Because it's not. Fuck hedge fund CEOs.
For a moment, she's like, no, you belong in Gotham. The generalized cheap left-wing sensibility is very silly with regard to Catwoman. If I have not made clear at this point, the movie's also 8 hours long. It's like a Wagnerian ring cycle, this film. It just goes...
That's his only legit critique. It's a little bit too long. It's not as long as he's making out, but yeah, it's a bit too long.
On and on and on. Every shot is composed in order to have people walk across rooms. Like, Christopher Nolan would snap that cut right to the action. If you watch Dark Knight, there is no wasted motion in that film, and it's 2.5 hours long. This is 3 hours long, and it feels like 4. I never check my watch during movies, particularly not a Batman movie, and I check my watch at least twice during this film. It's better than Marvel, because everything's better than Marvel, because Marvel doesn't take characters seriously, and Marvel feels like cotton candy. This doesn't feel like cotton candy. It just feels like a fundamental betrayal of the character, which is just, it's lazy writing, and more than that, it's not nice to the audience. The audience wants to see Batman be Batman and be good at being Batman and know why he's being Batman. They don't want to see Batman learn the lesson that being Batman is bad. That defeats the purpose of going to a Batman film. Alrighty, so that is my review of The Batman. I know. A lot of people really like the movie because, hey, it's Batman. It's hard to dislike Batman, but...
So, yeah, I can see exactly why he's a shitty screenwriter. He doesn't understand arcs, like, at all. He's, like... What? Would you just write this stuff and, like, later just contort it to fit whatever worldview you wanted? Because that's what you're doing to this movie. You're contorting it to your worldview, obviously. yeah, the movie's not perfect, but essentially you're saying, oh, this movie sucks because it doesn't give Batman an arc, and then it gives him an arc, but I'm gonna twist this arc so I don't like it. This really comes off as forced, man. This is bad. I mean, there are real critiques you can do of this movie, which I do in the podcast. You should check it out. But not what he says. He actually brings up some stuff I actually liked in the movie. Yeah, you're a bad movie reviewer, and I would say stick to your day job, but you're bad at that too. So have fun with that. I guess if I would add anything, if there's anything you want me to react to, put in the comments below.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
I used to fuck guys like you in prison.